Welcome to a special edition of 42 Stories Anthology. I'm your host, Bam. Today, no special guests. I just want to talk with you about one of the staff members at 42 Stories Anthology. Many people don't realize that there were roughly 22 critique partners and editors who helped review and read the book. In addition to them, there were artists and promoters who were all considered staff, which made it literally Team 42 because after you counted all that, it was 42 people. And so it was pretty cool. But with that said, I felt a closeness to all these people, and they're very important to me. So losing one of them, which I found out today, it's really hard. Um, and it's been a long road to get the anthology published, and I want it to be successful because it was my dream for uh, for this book to promote people's writing. Writers have done so much for me in my life. Uh, yeah, when I was younger, I had some surgeries, and all I had was reading and writing, and I wrote my stories, and a lot of writers helped me, and I thought after some of my stories are published that I wanted to get back, and so I came up with the 42 Stories anthology. And at first, I didn't have a lot of staff members, and one day I got an email from a writer in the book who their story was accepted, Terry Groves, and his email to me was simple. It was that he really liked the anthology and he would love to help in any way he could. And it was great timing because I was looking for readers to add to the staff. And I said, sure, let's go for it. And not only did he end up being a reader, but he ended up volunteering first every single time I needed help with something. It was always he was always jumping at the chance to do something nice. And so when I found out the news that he died on August 23rd, I was really shocked because he's always lively and funny on Facebook. And we never got to talk officially, just chatting and messaging. So I wanted to dedicate a special to Terry today. And so I hope you'll bear with me as I go into a PowerPoint. I'd like to dedicate this special to Terry, who did a lot for the anthology. He also was one of the last people to read the final draft before it's going to be published. And he asked me in an email what I wanted him to do, because he's like, well, we've edited it so many times. Well, what's left for me? And I said I wanted him to be the first person to read it because he worked so hard on it. And I said, if anything sticks out, let me know. But I want you to be the first person who reads our draft because I mean, aside from me, he was there every step and he was always looking out for it. And I wanted him to be the first reader. And so that's why I asked him to read it. And he read it and liked it and was happy he liked it. He said it was a long read. And that was one part of critique. And why when you're reading the anthology, it's going to say something like to read the chapters in spurts. That's because of some advice he gave, which was that you really can't just sit there and read the book all at once. It's a book of many different kinds of stories in 42 words. And he mentioned that it could get a little wild. And so yeah, his final advice about the book was to not sit there and try to read it all, to take a break from it. And sometimes that's okay. Sometimes with a story, you have to do that. I couldn't really get into Haruki Murakami until I took some time off that writer's work, and then I went back to it, and it became a beautiful story when I read. Sometimes you have to do that with books, and that was his advice with the anthology was to take a break from it here and there, and then come back to it. It's something that you could just keep returning to, and the best part is that the stories are 42 words. So it's not like if you stop reading it, you'll lose track of where you were. All the stories are unique. But about Terry, he, as I said, was the formatting editor, and chief critique partner, and he was a valued friend. It was always there. And yeah, I mentioned he passed away on the 23rd. I'd like to tell everyone his biography. He wrote fiction for most of his life, and he's published both short stories and poetry. He also has some books on Amazon that I'll introduce you to. The guy lived on a yacht. What's funny is that some writers are like, well, what am I going to get for this story I have? Is it I'm going to be able to buy myself a yacht? You know, he didn't wait to make it big. He just had himself a yacht, and he and his wife lived on that yacht, and he enjoyed kayaking, and he wrote what he loved, and he loved the craft of writing. So you can find him on Facebook, and he has an author page that you could still like. I recommend that you check that page out. It's facebook.com, Terry, facebook.com/Groves dot Terry. As far as the anthology goes, I hope that all of you will check out his stories. He's got three in the book under different names. The first one is the coldest day ever experienced in August. It's a really good story. I felt like there was a hint of tragedy in it, but it was also hilarious. And the story behind this story is that we needed one more story for the book, and Terry was the first to jump up and say, "Let me send some." And my first response was, "Wait, I want unique people. I want individual people in this book. You know, 100, what 1,764. I mean, I want 1,764 writers in this book, which it was really aiming high." And he submitted this blindly, and it was read by reviewers along with some other submissions we had, and that was the one that stuck out to the reviewers, and not Terry though. He didn't review his own stories. But yeah, these people who are also on the team blindly read his story, and his was the first to get picked out of the submissions. That's because it speaks volumes of his writing. He was a really good storyteller, and when you read that story, just notice that it has this tragedy and humor to it that I really appreciated about his voice. And speaking of his humor, the second title is a fair day's fare on the way to the affair. Actually, I think this story is funnier than his story in the humor chapter, and you'll see why when you check it out. Um, and you'll see that under Grumpy Old Man. Yeah, I think he was a proud grandfather, and that's where these titles like Grumpy Old Man and Grandpa Tiger come from. Um, the last story was The Secrets We Keep and the Damage They Do. Not really a funny story, but it does have a hint of satire in it, even though it's in the tragedy chapter. And I definitely recommend that you check out all of his stories in the anthology. But along with the anthology, he has a lot of other publications that I think people should read. There's Crossing Along, Quest for Gold, the summer with Grumps. And I read that one first. I've read all of his stories, but that one for me was the most memorable. I think the best title was his last one that I listed here, which was Down the Tiger's Throat, because it encompasses him as a writer, and I think as someone who won't put up with crap. He'll be straightforward, and that's how he was. And I think that title was his best. It has 27 short stories, and he describes it as in the Amazon page on the Amazon page. He says something about if you don't want to read long stories, here's a bunch of short ones. And yeah, if you have time, I think that you should read all of these and give them reviews. Yeah. You can also find his social media. He's on Linktree, and that's his website, grovesterry.wixsite.com. The problem with Wix is after a year, if it's not kept up, that site's going to be gone. But Linktree is there forever. So yeah, you should check out his Linktree for sure. So that concludes today's episode. Leaving a friend behind, but he'll always be remembered thanks to his efforts in the anthology. Thank you, Terry.